Thank you. So just to quickly introduce myself, for those of you who don't know me, most of you do, but I'm Amrita, and I'm the founder and partner at Back to Source. And we're a group of like-minded people who come together to take a deeper inward journey and support the rest of the world to do the same. And it's my absolute great honor and privilege, joy, whatever you call it, but to have Leon VanderPol with us today. Again, he's someone I've grown to call a friend, a mentor, collaborator, my spiritual partner in bringing this work that he has created called the Deep Coaching Intensive to India and to this part of the world. But he is, of course, a master trainer, master facilitator, internationally recognized leader, and I just think a most awesome human being, and you're going to enjoy just being with him today. We've called this a fireside chat, and so, get yourself as warm and cozy as you need to, because I can guarantee you that Leon is going to ignite the spark that is there in each one of us, but he's going to shine his light on it. And well, whilst we've called it, evolving as a transformational coach, and I do what I know best, which is ask Leon a few questions and then get him to respond. If there are any questions that come to your mind, feel free to just put it into the chat box. And we'll also, I'm sure, have the time. We're not a very large group, so I'm sure we'll have the time to get your voice in as well, and have you to share, ask anything that comes up for you as you listen in to Leon. But this Leon's also visiting India in another 10 days, and so this is a group. It's a mixed group, because some people ask me, "Oh, this is just before the deep coach experience? Is it for the deep coach experience? Is it some preparation for that, or is it for something else?" But we run Leon's, like I said, signature program, Deep Coaching Intensive, in January every year, and we kickstart it with this fireside chat. But the work is no different. It is the same body of work. It's just different formats that we're bringing it to you. And whatever it is that you feel called to experience or explore or even just listen in, you're always welcome. But I'm going to really hand it over to Leon, and we'll call it, like I said, evolving as a transformational coach. But I want to just open by Leon inviting you to share a little bit about yourself and your own evolution, so that we step into this gently.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much. I always enjoy these fireside chats with groups like this. And my intention, folks, is to make it somewhat in an intimate gathering. So don't hesitate to type a question into the chat, or at some point kind of open it up for our conversational side of things. I really find that is the most valuable for people, when the things that are of interest or concern to you can be addressed in these conversational spaces. So don't hesitate to bring forth whatever's on your mind, because that really becomes the elixir of your experience here. Where to begin with all of this? It was funny, I was listening to Anita just share a little bit back about her journey and her return from Canada to India at the age of 55. And I was thinking, my journey has just been that, but kind of the other way around. I left Canada in 1993 and in my mid-20s, and went to work in corporate America for a few years, where I learned a tremendous amount about many things related to Americans, American culture, business. Felt I sold my soul a little there. And there was that part of me, Anita called it the feeling part, that really felt intuitively that it was not a place that I wanted to stay or extend my career in. I've always been one of those people who's followed his own kind of inner drummer. And I was raised in a family which I've been infinitely grateful for, that has always supported my moves and my kind of following of that inner intuition of where I needed to go and be, because I've always felt from a fairly young age that there was something that I was to be about in this world. There was a work, a purpose, something that my life was to stand for. And of course, that didn't reveal itself immediately or early on at all. It was often a question mark and kind of a yearning and a longing, but it eventually landed. But in those early years, it didn't. It just felt like this is where you need to go now to do this thing. And I would follow that. And so I went off to the United States for a while, for a few years. When that felt like it was complete, I then relocated myself to Thailand and Bangkok. Oh, Sveta just came in there for a minute. Just mute her. Thanks. And it was then that I began a slow journey into what I guess you could call the learning and development sphere. I'd always had an interest in the human journey. Even going back again, reading books. My first book, I think I read when I was 17, was The Way of the Peaceful Warrior. You may know that book, Dan Millman's book. That really caught my attention back then. And I moved from there into philosophy like Ayn Rand, and kind of just university studying international politics and philosophies and psychology, just kind of expanding my understanding of the human experience, not necessarily with great intent, where like, I need to know this or that, but it was just, again, what I was curious about. So eventually I landed in the field you could call facilitation. And I was working in Asia, and I eventually moved to Taiwan. I spent 25 years in Taiwan. It was only last year, August, that I relocated back here to Canada at the age of 54 at the time. And the same thing, just kind of a fresh start with my wife, who's Taiwanese, and my two children who are in their teens, kind of landing here and kind of figuring life out again. But there was, in that time abroad, a great evolution of my own sense of self and my purpose and place in this world. Even though I was working in facilitation and then eventually training and generally in organizational life, I eventually moved into consulting, doing consulting, training, facilitation, all in the learning and development field. I landed in coaching, and that was 2005, 2006. And it was just lapping on the shores of Asia at that time, at least Taiwan. I had not heard of it when it was first introduced to me. A colleague of mine said, "Have you heard of coaching?" And I said, "What, you mean like sport coaching?" He said, "No, not that. It's completely different. You might like this." I thought, okay, why don't I have a look? So I did. And it just happened to coincide that I landed in the coaching sphere right about the same time that I was going through a fairly intensive personal journey of inner spiritual growth and transformation. I'd landed on the book, A Course in Miracles, and I was an avid student of that. And it was during those years, 2000, I'd say 2005 to 2008, when I really began to tap into what felt like a power in me that was born of light, that was born of love, that felt like it wanted to really consume me and to take over my work, in a sense. Now, that doesn't make sense necessarily right away, and it didn't make sense to me right away at all. But there was this endless kind of sense that there was something quite significant emerging in me, even though at the time I felt quite lost in things. I was doing work that I enjoyed and I was good at, but I never felt truly at home in the corporate world. I never found that that was the place that my heart just sang to be. It was always feeling more like, yeah, this is good, I can do this, and we're working with people. But the main issue that I found was that people kind of have their walls in that world. Even if you go into a learning and development space, people still have their walls. And I never found a way to get too deep with people as a collective in these certain groups. And that's okay. This is not to judge that. This is just to say, maybe it wasn't for me, that sphere of work. To some degree, I wasn't able to make my own heart sing in it, and I didn't seem to really be able to find a way to get people to drop those walls, those shells, that kind of armor of guarding, to the point where they could really reveal more of what's going on for them at an essential level. But then coaching came along. And even though at the very beginning I was doing what I call transactional coaching, very kind of linear, the way you're trained in coach training school, kind of move through the process and the steps and what it needs to look like. And I was doing that, but yet I was finding like we were getting to places of intimacy with people that I found refreshing and heartening. And I remember thinking, wow, this coaching thing, I'm kind of falling in love with it. Facilitation is good, training is good, teaching is good. I mean, I still do all of those things today as the founder of the Center for Transformational Coaching. I do all of those things. But there was something about the coaching sphere, like just being in that place of intimacy with another human being that really made my heart sing. And I was just taking at that point, like I said, a fairly standard coach training course. I wrapped that up in around 2007. And I kind of planted a flag in the ground and said, well, I'm going to start adding coaching to my own offering of services of training, facilitation, consulting. We'll add coaching to that. As you know, folks, when you can do a group experience, you may be able to coach some of the people as an ongoing. So nice added on. Okay, that was all good. But still, I wasn't in that place where I felt like my truest self was able to show up in my work, where I could be everything that I'd studied, learned, believed about life, about spirituality, about healing, about consciousness. All of these subjects were fascinating for me. And there was no place in the corporate that I felt I could bring that, or at least express it in a way where it would just land with people and be kind of accepted. So I had my own barriers up, you might say. I was kind of hiding parts of myself from the world. It was only about 2009 when I began to work as a trainer for a global coach training company. And I was working, it was an online training company, and I was working with people from all over the world. And some of those people eventually came knocking on my door and said, hey, do you do personal coaching? I said, yeah, I do personal coaching, sure. And I was moving then away for the first time from the corporate world, kind of shedding the shackles of that. And this is when, for me, my coaching really evolved, but not just that, it's where the fullness of who I am as a coach and the expression of how I wanted to show up with people could be as I deeply, deeply desired it to be. Because I decided if I'm going to work in this way with people, I'm going to work in the way that is utterly and only of the most meaning and value to me. There cannot be any walls. There cannot be any more holding back any aspects of who I am in order for me to work with people in this way. And now I began to really kind of let out, I would call it this deeper spiritual side of my work and my life. And one of the main areas that it really started to show up was what I today call a healing experience. And how do I say this? It was as though when people are working on really deep-seated beliefs, the kind of things that are wedded to the very fabric of your self-identity that you've been carrying since childhood, that you truly believe you are. Those deep-seated beliefs, when they're ready to be released, when people are saying, I see now how they have served me, but they're reaching a point where they're of no real value to me anymore. But when something is so wedded to the fabric of your self-identity, when it's almost like in your DNA, how do you release that? What I found was conventional coaching would hit a wall every time. There was just all the most powerful questions in the world are not healing a belief that is embedded in the very DNA of your being, right? That goes deep into the subconscious mind, that has roots back into childhood. And some of those core beliefs, like I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, I'm not loved, I'm not lovable. I mean, that stuff affects every aspect of the way that you experience life. There's no part of your life that is not tinged by the lens of those core beliefs. And we all have them in different ways. But how do you outwork that? Like, how do you truly evolve, transform the nature of your being so that that stuff no longer has its grip? And that was a big question for me as I was starting to work with people that seemed to be on what I now call a journey of transformation. But back then, I didn't have a word for it. In coach training school, that word transformation was tossed around really lightly. Like it basically meant change. Like people just called change transformation because it's a nice word. It sounds good, right? Transformational leadership, transformational coaching. what I do. But I came to realize that over time that there's much more. Transformation is a much deeper, more radical revolution of your sense of self. It's a radical revolution of your sense of self and your purpose and place in this world. And again, people who are going through this really deep journey of personal change want to outwork deep-seated beliefs. They want to shed that. And there I was from my coach training, trying to ask the most powerful questions I could think of to help people release. But the best it could do was really change perceptions. Yeah, okay, I could ask a question that had someone think about it differently. Or maybe we're looking at the silver lining, that kind of shift of perception of something. But it wasn't really getting to core. There came a point when I knew that I had to start experimenting with something, and I started experimenting with kind of an energy healing, let's put it that way, a light energy healing in my coaching sessions. And I began inviting my clients who were going through these struggles of kind of outworking deep-seated beliefs. I invited them to what I called at the time a light body healing session. And it was a very different kind of sessional experience. It was a lot of silence, deep, profound silence, just kind of sitting together, trying to kind of bring forth, for me as a coach, what I call love consciousness. Like, what is this field that we call love that we can just sit in? And what happens when we connect in these fields and just simply perceive our wholeness, perceive the self beyond what we understand, and touch its reality as an emerging potential within us. So I did this for a couple of years, and then I began to think around merging coaching and healing, because my clients were having wonderful experiences with healing, but I was still separating it from what I call a coaching session. So these were separate experiences until the day came when it felt like, now I need to bring these together. I need to bring these together so that coaching can be a healing experience. And I don't mean in some, I'm broken and I need fixing kind of way. That's not the healing I'm speaking about. I'm talking about healing as the capacity to perceive your wholeness, the capacity to perceive that which is beyond anything you might perceive as broken, the existential reality of you, the unchanging nature of you. And when people touch that part of themselves, even if it's only fleeting, even if it's only for a few minutes, something revolutionary is ignited within them. Something evolutionary is ignited within them. And they begin to move more intentionally, more deliberately to embody that reality, to make it something that they can express fully into the world each and every day, wherever they show up, whatever they're doing. Now, this is not something that happens overnight. This is a journey that for some will take a decade, for some will take a lifetime. But they're on the journey and they're on the path, and they're healing those, let's call them falsities of the mind that have become embedded within us, that have somehow made a home in our mind, the distortions of who we are, the distortions that we carry about the way life is. They shed the conditioned values and beliefs of their society that have said, this is the way you should be. This is what success means. This is what it means to be a good daughter, a good son, a husband, a wife. They start to question that. They start to shed that which no longer reflects the reality of their being. Some of it they may choose to keep because it's not all, quote unquote, negative. It's just some of those things are truly limiting. And until you make conscious choice around it, you're not unlimited. So these people were going through this journey, and there I was kind of sitting in spaces with them, going to the deepest parts of our expressed self. And this is where I found the magic of coaching really started to arise for me. Now my heart's singing. This is it. And there were sessions when, honestly, I would sit for 20 minutes, even 30 minutes in silence with another human being. And yet everything was happening in that silence. It was rich and replete and healing and full of light and possibility and understanding and wisdom. Like all of this is coming in to this field of two people sitting in silence with each other, with the expressed intent to be in that with each other. That's the intent of the session, to be in that, to touch that part of ourselves, which on your day-to-day basis is kind of out there, and to bring it more into our lives. And what happens is it starts to recalibrate and reconfigure the totality of your being. You start to show up in the world differently. You start to make much more intentional choices around the question, like, who do I choose to be? Well, I choose to be, and fill in the blank: compassion, kindness, confident, alive, joy, happiness. And what does it take to be that 24/7? In a sense, it's not something that I show up as over here, but not over here. It becomes the sense of, this is who I am. There shall be no separation between work and play. In that, you know what I mean? There's no separation. There's no more masks of, I wear this at work and I wear that at home. All of that begins to fall away so that people can stand truly free and clear in this world as they are. And they no longer desire any sense of separation. This is what we call integrity. True integrity. And it's a process of getting there. It's not just about stating, I know I have integrity. It's not, you can't just, you can say it, but to get to the point where you are truly living in integrity, where all those falsities, distortions, contradictions have just fallen away, so you are standing free and clear as you are, that takes time. That's a journey of evolution. That's a journey of transformation. And this is the work that deep coaching is here to support. That's what I eventually landed on around 2012. And I sat down with a piece of paper and a pen, and I started thinking, okay, this is what I'm doing with my clients. It absolutely makes my heart sing. It is unlike anything I was ever trained to do. It was none of this showed up in my coach training programs. And I thought, how the heck can I teach this? Because I think I've got something. So I set about with my pen and pad, mapping out what felt like a course. And interestingly enough, what came forth was not more models and methodologies and processes and questions. What came forth were practices, transformational practices. And there are 9 of them in the deep coaching work. And at one point I had, 15, 18 of them sketched out on a piece of paper, and I started to consolidate them and reword them. Finally landed on what felt like, this 9. And I offered the deep coaching intensive for the first time in 2013. Eight people came. I was over the moon. 8 people. I couldn't believe it. Like 8 people said yes. It was just fantastic. But I still had no idea where it was going to go or what it was going to become. It was just, this work speaks to me. And there are 8 other human beings who are saying, that sounds like something that I would like to learn and explore, because my coach training has only taken me this far. And Leon, you're talking about learning to do something with people that's like way over there, maybe a bit out there, but it's way over there. And there's something in it that calls to me, because I too feel this inner yearning to transform my own inner reality. I feel this inner yearning to sit with people and help them look at and face their deepest pains and their greatest joys, all at the same time, with no filter, with no limitations. Like, that's what I'm called to do, Leon. That would bring me great joy. So they joined me. I was like, all right, fantastic. It was a 10-week course at the time. A 10-week course only. Now it's 24 weeks. It's evolved as all the work tends to do. And so I set about teaching this. And, my coach learning the evolution of it didn't stop there. That's what's fascinating for me. I wrote A Shift in Being, which is essentially the essence of the work in a book form. I started writing it in 2015, 16, 17. It was a slow cook, let's put it that way. And in hindsight, I came to understand why that was. Because even while I was able to put pen to paper in 2013 and put forward a 10-week course, it took me another 4 years of teaching it and practicing it day in, day out with my own clients and with the students going through the course. It took me that long before I could honestly say, I understand this work. I honestly had to take, that was the evolution of my own. I was given this much at the beginning in terms of insight and understanding. And it took years to still really grasp, because the work keeps revealing more. It reveals our infinite depth, our infinite self. And there's no end to that. And every time I thought, oh, I've got this work, I've grasped it, I'd have an experience with a client that would be like, nope, there's this other level that you have not yet understood, another place you haven't yet reached. And it would shine light on that. And of course, that was for me too, the elixir of the process, because I recognized that coaching never seems itself to hit an end. Just like my own personal journey through this thing we're calling human transformation, this radical restructuring of our sense of self, it feels like at the end of that, there's kind of a landing place, and yet evolution still continues. The true potentials of ourselves as human beings, of beings of light, love, of universal citizenship, if you want to call it that, we don't really know what that looks like at its ultimate end. This is an experimental place of play. And for me, that continued, and therefore my coach learning of this work continued. And I thought that was one of the greatest gifts, that it never really ends. As I evolve, it evolves. Even today, the way that I work with people who come to me for coaching is different than 3 or 4 years ago. It just keeps evolving, and it goes deeper and deeper. And here's the other thing, it gets simpler and simpler. All of that complexity, all of that learning, all of that knowledge that early coaches, are taking in, like this tremendous amount and processing it and making meaning and integrating it into your work, into your practice. There's this simplicity that shows up in the end that is just, it's just pristine. It's just divine. It's just like, right? Just this simplicity. But I understand that simplicity was arrived at after a long journey of, at times, complexity. So again, this is not just to say we jump to simplicity, like if we could just get there. But part of the deep coaching work is, and this is a big challenge for many people who have been trained in conventional or what I call transactional coaching methods, is there's an unlearning that has to happen. And some of the students that come into the DCI have no coaching background, and they're nervous because they think, I've got no coaching background, and how can I do this? And we have others that come in quite confident from their many years of coaching, thinking, I got this. And here's what's interesting. They both bump into that sense of, I don't have this early on. There's a sense of, oh my goodness, the things that I learned as a coach and was trained at, I need to unlearn that. And how the heck do I do that? They've got a mighty grip. And those who have no experience are still kind of fumbling, if you will, through this sense of, I have no idea what I'm doing. But I tell you this with honesty, at the end of the course, at the end of it, of this 6-7 months together, if I was to listen to a session from what would be a coach newbie and an experienced coach at the beginning, I couldn't tell you the difference. It all evens out in the end once you learn to really lean into the work as it's kind of presented. So, if you're coming into this from any space of coach background or no coach background, it all evens it out. Each person has their own unique learning journey within it, within relationship to the work. And that's its beauty. It's going to reveal in you more of your own innate essence. You are going to become a much more conscious human being in terms of how you show up and express in a coaching space and outside. Those layers of selfhood that still need to be let go of. It's going to invite you on that. We say in the course, your transformation enables transformation, which simply means that at the core, if you want to stand as a deep coach, as a deep transformational coach, it behooves you to have gone on the journey of transformation for yourself so that you stand as a way shower, like a true one who has walked the journey through the fire of experience, versus one who's read a good book or been to a course. So even though it is a course, it is a journey. We want to take you on a journey into yourself. And for those of you who are attending the Deep Coaching Experience next week in Mumbai, that's what we're doing. It's called the Deep Coach Experience. Not because we want to necessarily overload with all this theory and knowledge. It's about, what does it feel like experientially to sit in a container like that I'm speaking to, that I'm pointing to right now. And to understand that, because when you sit in that container and you allow it to recalibrate your own systems of consciousness, your own understanding of the potentials of human relation, you can then take that into the world and stand as that, as one who's actually been through the fire of experience. And truly, that's what the Deep Coaching Intensive wants to do. It wants to take you to the deepest part of yourself, to touch aspects of yourself and your mind that you may or may not yet have touched or fully developed or fully understood are there as a possibility for you, so that you can do the same with others. And you all know it right now. We look at a world that is in real need. I mean, people put on a lot of happy, smiley faces, but there's a lot of not happy, smiley people, if you know what I mean. There's a lot of hurting. There's a lot of pain of people who are trapped in egoic consciousness, who don't know the way out. It's, in a sense, all they know. They may sense that there's a greater possibility and they're yearning for the greater possibility, but they're kind of locked into ego consciousness. So this whole journey that for ourselves and that we can then take our clients on is really to transcend the grip of our ego, so that we can connect more with the heart, with the soul, with the essence of self, and make that the expression into the world, in our work, in our families, in our lives. And then things get good. Things get really, really good. Life starts to just configure itself for you, because in a way you're partnering with life. It's just becomes like a true partnership. And that is, for me, the journey that I've been on for all these years. It certainly isn't ending. Like right now, I'm going through another transitional phase in my life. For the last 10, 11 years, I was the managing director of the Center for Transformational Coaching. And in addition to the coaching work that I was doing, I was actively building my business. And that often consumed tremendous amounts of energy and time, in addition to writing and teaching and coaching, raising a family. I was running my business. Only within the last few months have I brought in a new managing director. And for the first time in many years, I'm able to hand off kind of the minutia, if you will, of the day-to-day operations. So, what it takes. So I'm in my own transition to the what's next and what's emerging in me. And it's exciting. And it's, again, an uncertainty. But what it feels like above all is a tremendous partnership with life. Just a tremendous partnership. Like, it is one. I am not imposing my will. I'm not saying this is what I want it to be. It's much more, what is it you need of me? And I am trusting infinitely that all things will transpire to bring about what I need to be doing in this world, like coming to India, being a DCI, whatever it may be, showing up with this person, showing up over there. That's the call. And for me, it takes a little bit of unlearning too. I have to unlearn and let go of certain patterns of behavior that are not serving what's coming next. So this evolution of myself, the evolution of my work, it continues, and you'll find the same for you. And it gets so rich and rewarding that it's almost indescribable. I find myself sitting here today with all of you, with my good friends and colleagues in India. We're looking to bring this work forward, and I am grateful beyond measure. All right, just to sit in that. Whether 5 people showed up today, 1 person showed up, or 100, it makes no difference. I'm grateful beyond measure to have these conversations with you. So I'm going to pause there and invite in anyone. Amrita, you may want to say, I see you got something to say. Go right ahead. Yeah.
Yes, I do. So I want to say, above everything else that Leon said, that this is a great book and the course is a great course. But before we move into getting everyone else to say, I want to ask of Leon, is this incredible journey of transformation for everyone, or is it for
Well,
some?
the journey is open to the world. I mean, every single human being, you might say, has a seed planted within them. You could call it evolutionary consciousness. The seed of evolutionary consciousness is implanted within every human being, every soul. It is the potential of each and every one, but it is not necessarily that each and every one says yes to the call. It's just the way of life. Some in this lifetime will not heed the call. They will play it safe. They will keep their feet firmly planted on the egoic shore. Don't forget, the ego's role in our life is to care for our survival. Yeah? So it's going to, for some, have a mighty grip because life feels like a game of survival. And even for those who think that they know what it means to thrive, the ego can still, fool them nicely and say, listen, we can help you thrive. Look, you want to make $1 million and be safe? Look, it can help you make $1 million and be safe. You can grow and be powerful, rich, famous, known. So some of those who do say yes to the call will go on this journey. It's uncertain, it's highly disruptive. It has you questioning the very foundation of what you've understood life to be. And so many people just feel it's too risky. They don't want to go down it. They don't know what the end game looks like, where the world that we know teaches us what success looks like and what reputation looks like, what material possessions held looks like, and it feels solid and safe and real and good. But this journey of transformation is unknown, it's disruptive, it's uncertain, it looks like a risk. So one of the things that I do in my work and what I want to do as a transformational coach is stand as the future potential. Like to be able to say to people, yes, it looks risky, it feels risky because everything that you've been taught is going to come into question. That's the nature of the game. But I can tell you this, at the end of the day, at the end of this grand spiritual personal journey, there is so much potential, opportunity, and solidity. You might not perceive it today, but it's there. People will say to me, well, Leon, isn't this spiritual world? There's no money in that. There's no economy in that. And I might not have enough to pay my bills. And then I look and go, there is abundance beyond measure. There is grand economy, but you may not perceive it. It might feel risky because you're letting go of economy as you understand it today, as it has been taught to you by the world, to learn a new paradigm of economy, a new paradigm of finance, a new paradigm of abundance and prosperity. And for many, that feels risky. It's like, no, I'll just hang on to the one I understand, thanks. We're good. We're good. I might read a book about spirituality. I might dabble, take a couple of workshops, but I'm not going to risk it all. But for those who do say yes to the call, and these are the ones we're looking to support ultimately, because the world, for me, the world is kind of going through a transformation. You may see it right now too. There's something going on fundamentally across this planet. And many, many human beings are entering into this place of, there's something more, but I don't know what it is. And it's in me too, but I don't necessarily know where to turn or how to navigate this. And that's what the deep coach is here for. The deep coach is here to help people navigate the unknown, disruptive, turbulent, yet extraordinary journey of personal transformation and collective transformation, to help you understand the dynamics of it and the patterns and the stages, so that when you understand it, you can position yourself to help others navigate it. And the way to navigate it is not the way of the world we've known. This is where it gets tricky. It's going to, you have to learn the way of the new way, so to speak. Right? So to answer your question, Amrita, it is for everyone, and yet not everyone is called.
Yes. And so then can everyone, I mean, I know the bulk of people here are coaches. So can all these coaches be transformational coaches? Or is there something else that calls you to even just be a transformational coach?
Well, there's the surface level answer and there's the deep level answer.
Oh, just go for the deep.
Deep, are you
Straight
sure? Because I
away.
could say the surface level answer is easy, folks. You take the word coach and you put the word transformational in front of it, and then you put it on your website and bang, you're a transformational coach. Like that easy. LinkedIn, bang, couple words pasted together. That's the easy answer. And many people do that because I do honestly believe that many, many coaches out there do not truly understand what transformation is as a human process, as a radical revolutionary sense, a restructuring of your sense of self. And because they don't understand that, they just call themselves that, even when they're facilitating change versus transformation. Okay. Sorry, what was your question again, Amrita? I just missed that. I had this like side thought and I lost your question.
You have to move from the surface to the deep end.
Right, the deep end. And what was the question again?
The deep end was about,
everybody.
Can anyone be a deep
Right.
transformational
Got it.
coach?
Yes. Yes. So the answer is on the deeper level is anyone who's willing to themselves walk through the fire of experience. That's it. It just requires that kind of deep inner, often quiet, sometimes very loud decision. Yes, I'm willing to walk this journey. So it doesn't mean that you suddenly, you need to be this transformed human being to do this work. I write in the book, you don't have to be a master to speak of mastery, but it behooves you to walk the path of the master if you're going to speak of mastery. And that really is all that's required. It's not that you need to be this thing, because that can lead to a sense of imposter syndrome. Who am I to help people on this path when I'm looking at myself going, I got a lot of stuff that I got to deal with that is of my ego, that is of my past, that is of my wounded self, that is of my little inner child. I've got all of this baggage that I'm still carrying around. Like, who am I? Got a lot of that in the course. And I would just want to say to people, you are everything. But it does, again, behoove you to be walking the path of the deep coach, of the way of the transformation, so that you can stand as a transformational coach. And as long as that willingness is there, that desire to say there's more that I can do with people, I'm willing to evolve myself, then your coaching will stay right along with it. And yes, anybody who says yes to that call can absolutely, unequivocally, because it's not about a methodology, it's about a way of being. It's about a way of living in this world. It's about a way of showing up. It's not a certificate that says I've learned a process. Yeah. So in that sense, any human being who's ready and willing to venture forth is more than capable of this work, because it's in you.
And that's what I, marvel and feel so grateful for this partnership, because it's the way shore taking all of us on this path back to source. Right. And that's really how I see us coming together. And the sense that coaching can be such a powerful lever and such a powerful modality for personal mastery is what keeps all of us continuing to walk the path. And so thank you for being the way shore and walking it yourself, Leon. Yeah. But I'd just like to open it up to anything anyone wants to share or add or questions.
Come around the fire.
Anshul's right, jumping in. Deep end or surface?
We'll find out. Just as context, so I'm not a coach by training or by profession, but I do have a continuously increasing desire to more deeply understand and support both myself or others or possibility. And so by the spirit, I feel like a coach, but not by training or profession. And I guess I'm at this early stage, is what you call, Leon, as dabbling, where I did a lot of purpose-oriented work with myself and then changed kind of the trajectory of work, but still felt a further yearning for something. And I felt it started thinking about maybe it's more the how of one goes about fulfilling this purpose rather than the what. And in that, I said, let me reach out to a couple of friends who are working in this space. And one was Amrita, and hence looking forward to next weekend. And the other was a friend of mine who was a serial entrepreneur and then went to a Buddhist monastery. And with a few people who he spent time with there, they set up their own coaching organization. And interestingly, over the last 2 days, they held their own kind of workshop. And their workshop was focused around the Enneagram. And I'm assuming a lot of coaches will be familiar with that, but the idea of the Enneagram in the way that they presented it was not that we're going to try and classify your type, but we're using this as a tool to better understand yourself and where you may have elements of ego that you can peel to better understand your true self. And in that, they talked about certain types of people. And they shared that normally that the way that they've seen it, that both through nature and nurture, those types typically stay with you through life. But what one evolves is one's level of I guess the word you used was being. They use the word consciousness, or I think integrity. I see all of those as related. Like if you're more in touch with your being, you're more in touch with your consciousness. Therefore, you're more in integrity with yourself and others in the world. But the journey is to better understand your ego and your deeper sense of spirit so you can evolve levels of consciousness. And I'm wondering, the way that you spoke, I'm trying to interrelate what you said with their framework. And is that a fair interpretation? Would you agree with this idea that we have certain types that some of us are more attuned to achieving versus helping versus, and that it's more of a journey of consciousness? Or do you look at the Enneagram a little bit different? Because I'm trying to correlate what I heard for the last 2 days and what I heard from you.
Yeah. Yeah. And what you're sharing, there's much that I would agree with in the sense of this idea that we're evolving consciousness. We're healing consciousness and we're evolving consciousness into more expansive states. And that really is the journey of transformation, because as you head down it fully committed, you'll start to notice that as you shed those layers of ego, that you will start to experience much more expansive states of consciousness. And in those states of consciousness, whole new paradigms of reality are at play. I like to say that every state of consciousness has its own built-in reality, right? So as you expand consciousness into new states or levels, it's not that it's level, that's kind of a linear way of looking at consciousness, but that idea, then you're going to begin to automatically, by nature of that consciousness, experience new paradigms of reality. Things work differently in each level of consciousness. The same thing, like say, economy works differently at every level of consciousness, from deep scarcity and fear-based economy to absolute expansive, prosperous, things just happen economy. So we get all those different states. So that part of it, I absolutely agree. I don't personally have a lot of experience with Enneagram. However, I do have some knowledge of it because there was a period in my life when I was learning a lot, you might say, about myself. It's not a deep level, it's kind of a more surface level, when I was doing many of those different types of what I call personality indicators, from MBTI to StrengthsFinder to Enneagram. There are many good ones on the market. And I absolutely found them at the time valuable. They were interesting. They certainly tickle a part of myself that wants to know. And when people can put labels around things and structure, and I can say, oh, I see myself in that, that's helpful, right? I call that area that kind of a developmental coaching sphere, because I'm learning about myself through external means. But then there comes a time for me when even that needs to be let go of. Like to really touch the essence of ourselves without any labels, without any preconceived idea of what that is on a personality level, that too needs to be let go of so that we can really touch essence. And so that's just, again, just another level of ongoing consciousness expansion. But that's not to diminish in any way the value or even what this coursework and training is pointing to. Because like I said, I found immense value in it for myself at that time, that I was able to see myself through these different lenses, not to label myself and get caught up in a label. I agree with them fully on that, but to see myself through those labels and contemplate my existence through those lenses. That was really useful until the point came, as I said, when even that too needed to be let go of. Yeah. And now when my personality expresses itself, I'm not looking at it through any of those lenses. Oh, like there's me being a 7 or whatever the Enneagram number would be that I would be, right? There's me being that 7 again. There's my edge of a 6 kind of thing. I don't, all of that just falls away. And I just perceive myself as I am. And then I see my ego for what it is, and I do the work. And just let that be as it is. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I almost see an analogy of, we were talking about play, and since we work in early education, Amrita, you sometimes have training wheels on a bike, and you need some of those structures and frameworks and labels, and eventually you start to remove those so you can just really balance and be and go forward with yourself.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so
Thank
our
you.
course isn't free of any structure or models. It's not as though it's just we all get together and sit in silence. It's not that there we still build that in because that is a part of learning. It does absolutely assist in particular our intellectual side, which wants to develop and grow in its understanding. It serves that too, like structure, process, model. Yeah, but eventually the evolution of that is the letting go.
Thank you.
Yeah, Anita, come on in.
Thank you. Uh, so, Leon, I have been also coaching for over 15 years. And I started my journey like you, somewhere in Canada, and I was in Toronto, 2007, I think. So yeah, I've studied different programs and sorry.
Okay, she's been a little unwell today, but she wanted to make sure that she's here.
I know. I just wanted to have a conversation. So, and yes, the spiritual evolutionary growth has happened, and a lot of labels have been dropped, and you just do. No models are followed. You just do what needs to be done in the moment. So, coming to your program, would there be a way how you integrated, your personal growth into the coaching and say it doesn't need to be two? Is there a way that possibility that there is a process or a way that for me to do the same thing? That I'm just asking a personal question for me. I'm not sure I'm already doing it. I'm sure I'm doing it, but of course I need to do more of it. But I want to be consciously aware of where I am and am I doing it in that integrated fashion, and what is within me that needs to still evolve.
Yes, that's it. So what I was speaking to earlier was the separation of a healing experience from a coaching experience, right? And thinking that those somehow needed to be separate modalities. Because the world looks at it like that. I hadn't received any coach training that said coaching can be a healing experience for people.
Correct.
Right? They just say, well, we work with helping people shift beliefs or let go of beliefs. That's the common phraseology. But as I said, the methodologies that they present, which is often just through the use of conversation and question to truly release the embedded effects of those beliefs, that was never covered in any coach training that I'd ever taken. So this whole idea of merging the two seemed salient if we're going to fully evolve. But how? Then the question, well, what does that mean to merge healing experiences with coaching? What is the how around that? What changes in the context and in the relationship and in the field? So those are the big questions that we're asking. So it does sound like you're looking for a little bit of validation as to what I'm attempting to do for myself effective. I went through those same kinds of questions, certainly when I was experimenting, because there were a few years where I would call my coaching highly experiential. And I am forever grateful that I had clients who were truly willing for me to try it. I asked clients like, I want to do a healing with you, and I have no idea what I'm doing. Would you like to try it? And they would say yes. So I had to go through that too, that process of validating that there's something here. I'm not just making it up, that there's an impact, an effect, a long-term result that is deeply beneficial for people. Yeah, I had to get that validation for myself. And that's why many people come to the course, I'll be honest with you, is because once they've gone through it, they can kind of look at their own way a little more objectively, kind of sit back and say, okay, I see the way I was doing it, and I see where the edges were. And I've been able to either let that stuff go or kind of polish those rough edges. And now my whole methodology feels more integrated to me because I've had a chance to really look at what those edges of what I was doing are.
So would I be able to understand more deeply as to what within the client needs to heal and be able to support them in the process?
Yes, that's it. That's it. That's
Thank
it,
you.
right? It's the ability to really perceive better what's happening for other people through their words, their energy, and through the way that you show up.
Right.
Right. The relationship that you create. That's what I always say. It's like, are you able to create a space that is so absolutely safe that people will touch the deepest part of themselves in your presence? That they will reveal their most intimate aspects of self and thought in your presence, right? It's so safe. And so therefore you have to show up as the one that is absolutely the embodiment of that reality. It's not just that I'm creating this external thing called the space. I am the space.
The space. And that's brilliant. And that's beautiful. One last question, so I don't want to
Anita,
take all the time. Yeah.
Anita, can I just ask you to hold it for 1 minute?
Yes, I
Because
can.
Meena wants to come in. Manmeet wants to come in and share something before she has to leave. So I'll just invite her in and we'll come
Amrita,
back to you.
I think Anita should complete it. I'll wait. I'll go after Anita.
Okay.
Sorry. Okay. Thank you, Manmeet and Amrita. So Leon, in the process of yes, people do talk and they share the deepest inadequacies and insecurities. So my question again comes back to learning from you that when they are created that space, would I be in a position therefore to heal them, even though it's already there? And that's, I think, is that unknown edge or the learning that I think I may be doing it. I don't know. I want to be able to know that
that's just it. You want the validation piece
from you.
Yes.
At the same time, that
so
am I
the
really
piece that I would
healing them, or
change,
am I
Anita,
just being the container?
Right. So the piece that I would change in what you were saying is you asked the question, would I be able to heal them? What we're aiming to do is to position you as the one that can create the space, the container, the experience in which a person chooses to heal themselves.
Understood.
Yeah, but that matters because some people begin to see themselves. Now I'm the healer.
Right.
Like,
right. No.
That's a nice little label, isn't it? I heal people.
Yeah.
What a powerful person I am. Versus I am the space in which other people choose to heal themselves.
Thank you. That's it.
That's where we want to go. Yeah. Sharmistha, I see a hand up.
Yeah,
Yes.
we'll just take Manmeet and then come to Sharmistha.
Oh, okay. I'm bouncing all over here. All right, Manmeet, come on in.
I honestly don't know where to begin, and I'm not sure I'll be able to really put in words how much tuned I feel to what you say, Leon. Like every word is resonating and vibrating with every cell of my body. And interestingly, when I got into coaching, yours was the first book on my bucket list, and I have not read it yet. It's strange. I began with Carl Rogers, and then I straight away moved to Dr. Hawkins, the book that changed my life.
Power
And
versus
now
force.
in your presence, So I got into coaching last year. I got my ACC from ICF. And I would say what Anshul said, that I was always a coach in spirit, I guess, always thought so. And that's why I got into facilitation, training, teaching. And I thought coaching was a very natural segue till I got my certification and I felt I've lost my coaching. I felt so suffocated. I felt like revolting. I felt like rebelling. And I was told that this is part of the process because when you are new to driving, you're conscious, you're learning the whole gears and everything. And I said, okay, fair enough. And I failed, Leon. I failed badly. I kept failing and I kept listening to others till I took a complete break. I dropped coaching and I listened to my gut. As I said, something is definitely wrong here. Somebody who naturally feels intimate with people, can be the space, is going through this, something is definitely wrong. Until date, I'm continuously in that clash of gongs. You said you listened to the inner drummer. I was the one who was listening to the inner drummer. And now there is so much of noise around me that I don't know what to do. And I'm trying to listen to myself. And when I close my eyes, everything seems just at the right place. When I open my eyes, I hear noises. I see people saying hundreds of things to me. And I began mistrusting myself. I'm back to trusting myself. And I began to mistrust everything around me, that what you're saying, I don't think it works. Let me listen to myself. And now when you say it, I want to just jump out of my screen and be into the course, but I'm scared. I'm scared like hell.
Good. I say good because that is all good. Like you're feeling the terror of the edge. You know, you've walked to the edge, right? As they say, you're gonna take a big step into the unknown. Right now, it just looks like a cliff that plummets straight down. Every part of you is frightened of what this means to take that step. And I say good because it means you're on the edge. If you weren't on the edge, you wouldn't feel the fear. It wouldn't be there. You'd be like in that comfortable place of the known zone. You're on the uncomfortable edge. And every part of your ego is going to say, no, 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 no. We do not want to go there. That'll radically change things. And I'm not sure I want to do that. I don't want, whatever the voice is you're experiencing. So welcome to the edge. And you have a choice. You are welcome to stay right there. There is nothing in this earth that is judging you for just standing. You're also welcome to turn around and go back to where you came from. Some people do try. They walk to the edge, they see it, they go, that's not for me. Let's go back to the known world where everything's ordered and organized. I understand how it works, and they head back. And then some people take the step despite the immense amount of fear and uncertainty and doubt, trepidation. Because as you said, every single word resonates. There's a resonance beyond what the intellect can understand. It's just known that there is something in that field that speaks to me. And they take a step. So it's only a question of what it is you choose to experience for yourself. And there's no judgment around it in this lifetime or any other on the universal scale. It's just, what do you choose to experience for yourself?
Leon, can I ask a question that, does this work even for youth, 13 to 18? Deep coaching.
It can be. There are some very wise young souls. I will say that. But I've also noticed that youth are still going through, very often in teen years, their own kind of unique developmental phase. There's a model that we touch on in the book, 6 Stages of Personal Power, and they call that phase power by association. In other words, teenagers are still going through a rather formative growth period in which associating with others like themselves, dressing the same, looking the same, acting the same, speaking the same, thinking the same, that group think is very much a developmental, healthy developmental aspect of youth. They haven't yet really been through, many of them, the stages that are to follow that are still formative. Yeah. They haven't yet really touched the furthest part of their capacity to create in this world. That doesn't mean that they should all still be talked to in the way of, I was having this conversation with an educator the other day. You know, education is teaching children about how to prepare for the future, what you need to do to get ready from, let's say, high school to university. It's all about preparing the inner plane for that external experience. But no one's talking to them about their soul, their self. I believe every human being is ready for those conversations. It doesn't mean they're ready to be a deep transformational coach, right? To sit with another human being and be the wayshore for a journey into the deepest part of themselves. I'm not certain a teenager's ready for that, but they are absolutely ready to be in a space in which they contemplate realities of their nature that are deeper than perhaps what they're learning at school.
Deeply grateful. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, Sharmishta.
Hi. This is such a beautiful conversation. You talked about, Bjorn, about partnership with life. And you also talked about, social conditioning. I personally have been, grappling with both. And to my own peril, I got a feedback, 3 years back that, Sharmishta, your ego is kind of acting up. Be mindful. And I completely ignored that feedback, saying me and my ego, I'm a giving person, acting up. It doesn't work like that for me. But today, when I understand the journey that I traveled in the next 21 to maybe 23, I realize as I review myself that my ego did act up. I look at my TEDx video and see a very masculine me, talking there. And so I think I have gone a little bit ahead, lost connection with myself. And for the first time ever in my life, that I should be feeling partnership with life, I'm really feeling a little disconnected. And I think as I'm reviewing myself through these situations, I also feel, oh, maybe I shouldn't have done this when way back in 99 or way back in 2004, because the social conditioning tells us that those were not the right things to do. Maybe I did it, I came back quickly, but today I constantly flog myself, saying maybe this is, karma catching up, because I did have those missteps, even though I corrected them. So huge issues I'm dealing with right now.
Yeah. I'm not sure, is there something you would like me to speak to in that? Or is there a question in that?
So the question is, when do you lose touch with, partnership with life, and how do you really deal with, social conditioning and judging yourself as a result of that?
Well, that's a massive question. Thank you for asking the biggest possible question. That is a big question. How do you deal with all of that, right? The social conditioning piece of it. We've all been socially conditioned in countless ways. From the day we took our first breath upon this earth, we were conditioned into a culture, into a family, into society with beliefs and values. How do you work beyond that? How do you go beyond that? But the piece that I think I'll speak to instead just is this piece about maybe feeling a disconnect with the partnership of life. And I have to say that can be a bit disconcerting if you've come from a time when it's felt somewhat connected. Usually for me, that speaks to yet another point of evolution of our understanding of what that partnership looks like. It's a bit for me like the cliff followed by the plateau, and then the climb and the plateau. The plateaus can feel very good. It's as though the work that we've put into something has produced a kind of reward, and we are reaping the benefits of that reward for a time. And let's call that reward feeling in partnership with life, feeling that things are happening for me as I desire them to happen. And then there's going to come, of course, the next growth opportunity for you, which life will inevitably bring, because life is never going to sit back and just say, enjoy your time on the plateau infinitely. It's going to require you to move. So then comes in the next climb, the next learning curve, the next vista of possibility of what it means to be human. And in those times, it can sometimes feel like you've disconnected, like something is lost that you once valued, that very much may be a part of the untangling of certain things, the unlearning, the disassociation, whatever it may be, of certain things, so that you can reach that next kind of plateau of experience and live out its rewards for a time. Now, I don't want to impose this upon you and say, this is what's going on for you, because for me to understand what's truly transpiring for you to understand it would be a much longer evolved conversation. But I do notice from my own experience that there are times when it feels like all of that disconnect is really yet just another opportunity to understand the nature of my connection. But it has to evolve. I think it's the key word for us today, evolve. We have to evolve to that next understanding. And at times that means going through a period of deeply disconcerted lack of understanding. So again, people say, well, this doesn't feel good, Leon. I don't like this. I feel fear, I feel trepidation, I feel uncertainty, I feel doubt. I don't like this. And they want to problem solve that. And my response is, good. Oh, this is happening to me. I don't like the feeling of it. Good. What do you mean good? How can it be good? Does it feel good? It's like, I know, good. You know, people, I've seen so many coaches, they watch their clients go down a pathway. That pathway, the coach can see is going to be just a wall. The person's going to hit a wall. They're going to bang into it. They're going to feel whatever bad that they feel hitting that wall. So they will help that client avert the disaster that that pathway is sure to be. And I would say, why do you do that? I am more than happy to watch my clients walk down and run straight into that wall. Bang. I have no vested interest in stopping them from hitting the wall. And people are, well, how can that be? Because there's a massive learning in what that is to be for them if I am not trying to actively thwart a moment of discomfort for them as a coach. Because I think if you follow the way that I think, you will avert disaster, you will avert discomfort, you will avert pain. It's like, I have no interest in helping people avert pain until they sit with their own deepest self and see their way through it. That's what I mean. So it's the same with you. Are you experiencing that? Good. What's it trying to show you? What's the learning edge? What's trying to evolve for you? What's happening here? What's emerging? Like those questions will take you into it.
Thank you.
And you're thinking, well, that's not the answer I expected, Leon. Good. Yeah. Welcome to the journey. Jyoti. Jyoti.
Hi, yes.
Come in.
Thank you. Firstly, like what everyone has said and what you've said has really resonated with me today. And so my question is kind of around advice or a steer. So I think that kind of analogy of being on the edge, it's how I feel, and there's kind of a combination of fear and excitement. And what kind of concerns me is kind of in my practical reality of life, it is relatively busy. It's like I'm still working a corporate job. I still have young kids, and those things I cannot compromise on. And it's how do you think it's feasible to create the space for this deep work within kind of a practically busy life?
It always comes down to one single question. What do you truly value? That is it. Because you ask if it's practical. Everything is practical when you value it highly. So if you say, well, my work is my true priority, it's the thing I value the most, I'm going to put that at the top. It just has to happen. And then my kids and their needs, absolutely critical. Number 2, number 3, number 4. And then you come down to number 5 and 6 and say, my spiritual growth. Like it's important, but it's not number 1. Well, I bet you will probably have an immensely challenging time working it into your life in a really deeply meaningful way. It'll be there, but it'll be kind of on the edge of your experience. You know, once in a while, you'll have a chance to read a book, and once in a while, you'll find a quiet time to do some meditation. And once in a while, you'll sit and journal about your life and your hopes and dreams. And once in a while, again, this is not about judgment. It's just, I've worked with so many people who are asking this very same question.
Mm-hmm.
So then the question is, well, why is it number 5 as a priority? Okay, well, there's a conversation to be had there. What would it look like to make this work the center of your life as your number 1 value and priority around which all other things revolve? Well, that's a big conversation. There's no easy answer for that because it usually requires a significant reconfiguring of the way that you have structured your life in order to put that at the center of your world, to make it the number one priority. And to trust that when you make it the number one priority, everything else will still be cared for. But the fear is that if you make it the number one priority, everything else will not be cared for. Things will fall through the cracks. Things will be broken. The things that I value will be put at risk. And I'm not willing to do that. So it's number 5 on my priority list. And it's number 5 in terms of what I value in this world. That's the only game we're playing. And those people who decide, regardless of what I seem to think is real, I'm going to put it at the center of my reality. And I'm going to configure my whole world to that. That takes time, it takes energy, it takes effort, it takes a lot of conversations, not just with your coach, not just with yourself, but with the people in your life who are not used to you showing up that way. We're suddenly saying, why are you making time for that when there needs to be I don't know, dinner on the table? Or there needs to be more money in the bank? Why are you making that? If you read my book, there's a passage in there too about a woman who's saying this very same thing. And she says, my greatest fear in saying yes to this journey, to making this my number one priority and value, is that I will lose the things I love. Well, that's a big, big fear, to lose the things you love, meaning the things that are truly of greatest priority. My family, my well-being, my health, my relationships, my finances, my job. So it's not unusual for people to sit with this. And you're going through a time in your life too, with young family, burgeoning career, when yes, the pressings of life around you. But not all of us have been taught how to put this work at the center of our life. That is its own learning journey. If there was a school of life, and there probably is something called the school of life somewhere, where they teach you how to put these things at the center of your life, we'd all benefit, and we would all probably do it. Because we just don't know. Because we don't know how to do it, we don't. So we do what we know how to do, which is put family and career at the center of our life, because we know how to do that. And everything else then falls on the outside. So what is your priority? What is your value? What's most meaningful for you? How can you bring more of this into your life so it becomes closer to the center of your existence? Big questions. You don't have to answer them right now, but I'm just positing them for, right? Because I was there too once. When I first began my journey, really with Ernst, it was same thing. I was a new father, 2 young children, just beginning this idea that coaching is something I could turn into a business. I was still having to work to pay bills and put food on the table, and in a work that wasn't really for me any longer. I knew that, that corporate world thing, but it sure paid the bills. Great. So there was all of that too, and the busyness of it. But I knew that my future required me to put this work at the center, because my future was built on it. My future was to be of this. And so I had to find ways to make it the priority above all else, and trust that everything else would be immensely cared for when I did. And I had to have some hard conversations with people who didn't understand what I was doing, who didn't trust me, who didn't trust that choice.
Leon,
Thank you.
I don't know if this is helpful, but if Leon asks us that question, what do you value? Then to answer that question well, does one not need to go through that journey to our deepest, truest self to really know what we value? That's one thing that comes up for me. Yeah. And then the second thing that comes up for me is, if we do really value something, then would we not want to do that to the best, you use the word integrity, to the deepest way that we could, in touch with ourselves and in others, and therefore to do what we value truly, deeply well, do we not also need to go through the journey? So I sometimes wonder which might come first, but I know I'm speaking out of turn.
No, you're right. Because we say we think what we know, what we value, until we go through the journey. Then what we thought we knew we valued may shapeshift, may fall away, may be strengthened. You're right. Until we've gone through the journey, you won't really know. So for a while, we're playing with a bit of a surface game. And I always just say, but if you feel the yearning, if you sense that it's there, if it's a reality of you and you keep stuffing it to the side in service of other things, you're doing yourself an immense disservice. It doesn't mean that today you have to make it the center of your world. But if you keep finding excuses to not engage in activity that you know is deeply meaningful for you on a spiritual level, on a mental level, on a well-being level, then you are ultimately doing yourself and everyone around you an immense disservice, because you're not being true to yourself, even in the most simple ways. And I don't mean this deep, put it at the center and everything reconfigures. I just mean, if you're just saying, I'm not taking time even to go for a walk in nature to contemplate my life because I'm too busy with fill in the blank, then that can be doing yourself a disservice. And in time, as Anshul is speaking to, greater understandings will emerge, and you'll put more and more of this at the center, and it will all work for you. But it takes baby steps at first to commit to a practice that serves you.
Just waiting for that moment to hit, whether it's right or not in the gut. So
Yes.
I'll sit with it.
Yeah.
We're almost at the top of the hour, and for our time together today. But thank you, everybody. If there's anything you want to say in last closing, before I hand it to Leon to close, and I enjoy the fact that I have this partnership with Leon, and I can have these conversations with him. But even a conversation like this, despite the many conversations that I've had with Leon, I take something away each time. And today is that meeting the next understanding of my connection with life that Sharmishta ignited. So thank you, everyone, for being here. Leon, I'll hand it over back to you to close with your closing comments.
Just to reiterate what Amrita said, I'm always appreciative when people are willing to sit in a space like this for an hour, hour and a half, and to contemplate possibilities of life that we may not think about every day, or that we don't have conversations around with every day. So, of course, as Amrita said, I'll be in Mumbai next week. If you would like to come to the Deep Coach Experience, that's open. If you'd like to join the DCI, which is, of course, just the journey and laid out for you, join us. It's my life work. And I just want to invite you into it if you're ready to have that experience with us. Everyone is absolutely welcome. And it will radically change the way that you understand yourself and life to be. And it will change, if you're a coach, ultimately the way that you show up for others in ways that today you might not comprehend, but will absolutely be a part of what is to come for you. So thank you, Amrita, for hosting me, to all of you for being here and sharing this collective experience together. It was good. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. See you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Goodbye, everyone.